Well, again, we welcome you today as we celebrate Pope St. Martin. I'll speak about him in just a moment. We read today from Acts chapter 6, the beginning of the chapter, about the 7 men chosen to serve. And, I've heard reflections on this reading, but really many times, including from our own bishop here, Bishop Louis Kinnaman. And it is this very clear example of the ministerial priesthood at work, that the early church is not just a community of people organized around Christ as a central figure even after his resurrection and their participation in that, but the apostles are the first bishops. And they use the authority Christ has given them, that he gave them at the Last Supper, in essence, to ordain men to the ministry of diaconate. And so they choose several men, and Stephen, of course, really stands out because he would have a pretty short term of service and would be martyred. And so I think it just goes back to this question of, does our understanding of early Christianity accord with what the church tells us? How historical is our understanding of our faith? And I think that there are a lot of Catholics that don't believe anything fundamentally different from our Protestant brothers and sisters. We may be Catholic, we may go to Catholic church, but we don't really believe anything different than what Protestants believe about Jesus and his church. And so to continue to learn, continue to grow, I am a huge fan of the website Catholic Answers and the kind of resources they put out. Catholic Answers is certainly one of the really good ones, very, very much orthodox, but they also help you to understand what we do and believe. And so we read today this kind of encounter of Christ with the apostles, that he meets them on the sea, and there's kind of an interesting detail of he encounters them, and then it seems that the boat arrives at the shore immediately. Maybe there are different ways to take that, to kind of soften it a bit or not. But one of the things I think we can see in this is that it is God's power. It is God's power that truly touches our lives, that makes the impossible even easy in a sense. And it's this reassurance of God's presence to the apostles. Today we celebrate Pope Martin I, and he lived from 590 to 655 AD. He was elected Bishop of Rome and convened a council to teach we would call this a Christology, Christology, so study of Christ, about his two natures, human and divine. And so there was a Byzantine emperor at the time that abducted Pope Martin and tortured him in an attempt to get him to change church teaching to that Jesus has only a divine will and is not truly human. And Martin refused to break in the face of this maltreatment, and he died on the Crimean Peninsula on the Black Sea. That whole area is part of Ukraine, and of course there's been a number of battles out there, so he refused to compromise his faith, and he was martyred for it. And also, interestingly, he was the last pope to be martyred. So we've had a pretty good record from about that time onward, even though obviously John Paul II was shot. He didn't actually die. And so you might wonder, why does this matter? Why would Martin stick to his guns over a kind of obscure theological question? that maybe no one here would actually be able to explain why it matters, okay? Well, it isn't just an obscure theological content item. The thing is that if Jesus is incarnate, then he has to have everything, essentially, that a human person would have. And so his divine will, which is part of his being God, does not replace his having a human will, a human ability to choose, to love, those kind of things. And so the heresy that the emperor was promoting would have made Jesus less than fully man, fully human. And so heresy always wants to do that. It wants to take from what God has given us and reduce that gift. And in that sense, to reduce the obligation we have to respond. And so, as we continue this day, may Pope Martin, his faith, his devotion to the truth, inspire us to be people that ardently care about and seek out divine truth, and wish to apply that truth and that goodness from God in our life.